think somebody took us into the reading room.
Awesome. Great. Sweet. So the next thing I want to ask you, and just for our guests, this is going to be more of kind of like a radio show type talk show. Just wanted to take it back to the old school pre-Zoom, what they called webinars, pre-panel discussions, just a good old fashioned type conversation. And we will open up the audience for questions with about 10 or 15 minutes left. But Nick and Reverend Duncan Teague and I will just be talking. And if you all have questions that come up, please feel free to drop them in the chat or wait until the end, and you can come off mute and ask them yourself. And also, Nick, if at any point you want to jump in there, feel free. I'm gonna move on to our next question, which is about this topic. So I wanted to have this topic. I try as best as possible to try to just move with the seasons and just be aware of what season are we in, what's the energy of that season. Well, right now at the end of September, we are in a few different seasons. We're in, for a lot of where we live, it's coming into fall. It's about to be election season. Back to school has happened. Labor Day has happened. So there's a certain energy of like work, go, go, go. And it's before the holidays, so it's not that type of vibe yet, right? But it's also different than the repose of summer, the relaxation of summer, you know? And so this idea of hustle, I feel like there's a vibe of hustle. I also just want to name that we're in hurricane season. And wildfire season for our siblings in the West Coast. So there's a certain energy happening. And I wanted to speak to you, Duncan, about like that balance of the hustle and getting, because you have done a lot in your life. So you can tell us about some of the things. How do you have the resume you have? How have you done so many things? And also rest and take care of yourself and be healthy. And so just before we really dig into that, what does this topic bring up for you? What comes to mind? What happens to your
Well,
body?
I want you to repeat the topic because y'all put some energy into how you titled it for those who are joining the recording, because we named it before, but I just want you to say it out loud.
What was the title? Work, rest, balance.
Yes.
Work-life balance, yeah.
And
that was it, right?
And there was something else you said, but we'll find it. Or somebody will put it in the chat for us. But anyway, I really loved it. And I love that younger people doing this
Harvest
work.
season. Harvest season.
Harvest season, yes. And I don't think there is an indigenous group of people who didn't celebrate the harvest.
That's right.
Who didn't celebrate that it's not like smoldering hot anymore, and we're reaping the benefits of what happened from late winter to now. And I'll be honest, I was so geared towards school that this always feels like the new part of the year for me. And that it feels like the beginning of something new. And typically in my life, that has been what happened, that at this time of year, something new happens. And the sun doesn't cooperate with our hustle and bustle either, because I'm going to sound like a mature queen, because I am. So the sun will give you less daylight to play in. And that does something to us, because those long days of summer make it feel like, well, you know, why shouldn't this go on all night long?
Whatever it is that's going on.
Because it's all day long.
Make it all night long.
Thank you. And I have to say that it seems appropriate to celebrate and to also to gather people around, good people. Like if you were playing everywhere all summer, like now it's time, you know, you get a little more serious about some things. And thank you for putting that in the chat. And it feels like those who are important need to start to get a little closer before it gets too cold.
Can you just say that one more time for the people
One more
in the back?
again. Yeah.
Those who aren't important, what?
Need to get a little closer before it gets cold.
Cuffing season.
And interesting that my brother is a Libra, so for those of you who are siblings of Libras, I'm with you praying.
I'm sorry.
With all
We're
that.
so sorry. We're so sorry.
But our wedding is the day after his birthday. And that was now 19 years ago. And we got married at our 10th anniversary. And they said it wouldn't last. But the truth is that you don't get 29 years, you get today, and you agree to stick around till tomorrow. And I'm grateful for that. And that is also part of why I am with you and feeling as healthy as I am.
Bless it.
And I have made some deliberate choices about not trying to pretend like I'm 20 years younger than I am and playing as though I am 20 years younger than I am, because a bottle of scotch can last a lot longer now.
It's a more economical life now.
It is, and
stretch the resources.
And the truth is that you can do everything you did at 20 something, or at, if you must go into your teens, I don't know why anybody would, but that, because that was insanity. But if you want to, you can go do everything you did, but I assure you that the price has gone up.
Yes.
And not the economic price.
Right.
But the spiritual, emotional, mental, and some of your friends ain't tolerating it either. Not like they did.
Right.
Unless you're the old person with a whole bunch of young people who don't know no better.
See. And Nick, how about you? What when you first think of this topic, what do you think of? Work, rest, balance, all this?
I think of allowing myself grace, and kind of some. So I come from a family where we're taught as men to work and provide. So for me, working is making sure that I have enough to be able to supply myself, my household through the whole year. So for me, I work a lot, and a lot of times for me, I don't know about it, or I don't know what rest looks like, because I'm continuously working so I can make sure that I am a provider for my household on a regular basis. There's no rest for me. And sometimes I feel guilty when I decide to rest, or when my body tells me to take a break. Sometimes I don't know how to do that. So I'm actually, even though I'm supposed to be a part of this, I'm learning as well.
A part of
the topic of the harvest.
Shall we all are.
So for me, I'm like, it's a big learning thing for me.
Yeah, please don't let me come off as an expert, but I will say that it saddens me to hear you talk about guilt for rest. And when you say that, it is obvious that you were brought up in the United States. Because there are cultures where it is in the culture that we're not gonna work ourselves to death. And our rest may cause you inconvenience, and we don't care. And the capitalism that we grow up in says we must be available to make one more dime.
You better speak about it.
Even if that dime is spent on our funeral. You push me there.
Truth. We gonna stop you when you start lying.
That part. I mean, that's the story of my family. Honestly, that's the story of my family. They worked hard, and they even worked hard to put themselves in the grave. So I mean, and it sounds
okay, y'all.
It sounds weird.
Yes, and it's horrible. No,
Yeah.
It doesn't sound weird. It sounds horrible.
Yeah.
Because you have never traveled, you have never done anything because you're working. Now, some of it was for survival, and you know, we don't want to get classes, but some of it was ill-timed, or a message about I'm not enough if I don't, and not witnessing healthy rest. And we're not talking about being trifling. For the young people, trifling is when you take laziness and you multiply it by 120 times, and that's trifling.
I mean, you ain't lying.
And we're not talking about trifling. You said, I feel guilty when I rest. And I hate to tell you this, but you're a human being, which means you're one of the beings on the planet who's like the other beings on the planet. We will watch the dog sleep all day and we can't take a nap. And then we hug and rub on the dog, and the dog is so happy.
Ecstatic.
Listen, and how about, this is how I'm on, I feel like I've overcorrected, because I think I started to understand how that, actually, I'd say my dad is a workaholic, and I have always praised him for that. And I learned how that was in me, and how that's actually not the best thing to praise for. It may have started somewhere that, again, like Nick said, provided for our family, kept our family out of some particular violent situations that maybe my cousins didn't have access to. But probably maybe not real recent, y'all, like 5 or 6 years ago, I start changing like how I'm like, how can I make ends meet and work less? And so I start doing different things, and like I've found my ideal amount of hours per week that I would like to work and all this stuff. But here's how I've and now there's this whole ministry, like the NAP ministry and work as reparations, and you know, and all of this. And so now I love the work that I do. I love all my clients. I love all the organizations that I get to support. But it's the point where, like, when I start to feel resentful, like, what I got to do today? Who is calling me? I know it's time. Basically, it's like I have now come to a place where I know that I do need to hustle sometime. I can't just like nap all the time. And I want to be intentional with my hustle, and then I want to take a break, and I want to hustle and I want to break. So I'm trying to find that balance, but I do feel like I've come to a place where I'm like, child, do I need to? I'm like really all about the rest now.
Holiday,
but I do actually
need
to sometimes.
And I want to deal with that word.
What's that?
It should be a curse word, workaholic.
How come?
And then you said a number of good things about being a workaholic.
Yeah.
But this show is about work-life balance.
Right.
So why is that word problematic? It's like alcoholic.
Yes.
Alcoholic does not include someone who drinks within balance and within moderation.
Correct.
It does include people who have who have sacrificed significant relationships
Yeah.
for alcohol, who have compromised their lives to be involved with alcohol. And something we don't talk about in the Black community, folks who are compromising their health and well-being for alcohol.
Mhm.
And so everything else is subsequent to their
That
relationship
relationship.
with the drug alcohol. Substitute the word work.
Yes.
If your relationship with somebody else is a cash app or a check,
It is. Yes. Thank you. That's it. Pull that out of me. That's what it is. It's not how much, it's your relationship to it, how you feel
Yes.
without it, how you
Yeah.
can communicate when, you know what,
and
the one time that my dad was gonna apologize for, we're not gonna talk about my daddy issues tonight, different show.
No,
But the
that's
one
good.
time for all his grievances, he didn't, he sent a check. That was his way of being like, I'm sorry. I almost think I was mad, so I must have then cashed it. My friends were like, cash the check.
Yes.
I'm like, I just want him to say I'm sorry. Or I love
And
you.
a new form of slavery.
Yeah,
It is.
talk about it, y'all.
It seriously
When
is.
it is not balanced that you can't turn that off while you eat, while you're in an intimate relationship, while you're trying to impress while you're with your child, or worse, the child has to text you to get your attention.
Or vice versa.
Because I want y'all to know we grew up without them.
Yeah, we did too.
The phone didn't leave the wall, y'all. I know that's
Me and Nick,
unimaginable.
well, me too. You too, Nick, right? You grew up with a
Yeah,
landline.
me too.
Okay, me
Me
too.
too.
It had
It was
a black-
long. It
I
was a
didn't always have
long
a cell
cord.
phone.
We stretched it from the kitchen to the living room. Yes, we did.
We lived without it.
They organized the march. Bayard Rustin organized the March of Washington without cell phones and fax machines.
Without a computer. He used note cards. And some of the note cards didn't have nothing on them. But anyway, there's a domestic violence, because I did, for a very short time, I had the honor of working with Julia Pereira,
Mm.
Colombian woman. She's no longer with us, but she was one of the few Latinx women doing domestic violence research. And I went into that research knowing some stuff, but I came out with my mind blown. And one of the things I found out was that if it isn't safe for you to relaxingly, comfortably leave a relationship to go do whatever, the grocery store, to be with your friends, to be with your family. And you're not really leaving the relationship, you're just in your own thing for a moment. If it isn't safe to go, it ain't safe to stay.
Write this down. Mm-hmm.
Jeez.
And some of us have an abusive relationship with work.
Ooh. Ooh.
We don't have an identity that doesn't include work.
Mm. What do you think?
Somebody said they felt guilty about resting.
A lot of us. A lot of people if you take a week vacation, you're not really vacationing until the 4th or 5th day.
Really.
Right.
And this ridiculousness around the imbalance of coping with grief.
Mm.
That there are folks who leave the funeral maybe to eat at the dinner, grab one piece of chicken. I'm sorry, I'm a carnivore. And then they're talking about whether they can go to work or not. And you're in grief. I'm not talking about your fifth cousin that you didn't know and you just had to go to the funeral. I'm talking about your mama, your daddy, or one of your siblings, a cousin who was like a sibling. You have gone to the service, whatever it was. You need a day to cope with that, at least. And if it's somebody dear to you, like somebody important to you, you're going to be grieving for a year and running back to work after a day. You're crazy. You're not in your right mind yet. And 100 years ago, we knew this. Because 100 years ago, based on your gender, you had to wear either a black veil or all black clothing. And if you were male identified, you wore a black armband. Guess how long you wore that?
1 year.
One whole year. You told the world, I'm not like I used to be. I'm not like I regularly am for a year. I guess I'm saying in shorthand or in longhand is, yes, thank you. Grief does require rest, and grief will take it from you. You'll lose that job that they don't give you time off from.
Right.
Because you're not the same. And the reason you have friends and family come over and stay with you for a week is because you will put the milk in the cabinet and the cereal in the refrigerator.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about something I heard. This is my own personal experience, especially when I lost my mom and the founder of our poetry group 3 or 4 months later. And there is a gap in my mind from 1998, from Memorial Day to about when we performed the next time in July, because I was grief stricken. And I'm not clear about what happened then. It was crazy for me. And so what I'm saying is that find work that you love.
Or does it feel like
I founded Abundant Love. I love that I did that. I was probably crazy to do it, but I love that I did it. I love the people there. I love my ministry. I have grown as a person because, well, God sort of shoved me into my calling. But anyway, so I had to accept it. But even in this job that I absolutely adore, it is not healthy for me to take on too much at Abundant Love. And y'all pray for me because I do. And part of it is not fair to them, because part of an organization called Abundant Love, and I'm trying to take it all on. No, that's not. No, I'm just holding the container. I'm doing my part. And then they better do theirs if we're a real congregation. And I'm gonna be real honest and open. I have a massage therapist. I have a therapist. I know where I can get my nails done cheaply. And if the men on here have never had the nails done, or male identified folks who've never had your nails done, it is not about the nails. It is about that wicked chair that you sit in, and it does things to you that almost are illegal, but it is fabulous. For an hour. And then you leave feeling kind of good looking. That's not bad. The same for whoever touches your head and does your hair. That's why we'll tell them anything. If they'll shampoo you, oh my God, it'll change your life. And so I'm trying to not say, no, you don't have to go to Bogota for 2 weeks, because not all of us can afford that. But you can certainly find somebody you love and trust, and every 6 weeks, go have them shampoo your hair and do it.
Yes, absolutely. That's a perfect segue to a question that came in the chat about Isabella Grace Falconberry says, "Ooh, I love this. Let's get concrete about how to not do this." Talking about when we're all the ways of, overworking.
I'm not
How do y'all find the intentional balance in your day to day? And Duncan just named some of those ways. Let's continue this track. How about you, Nick? How do you, even though and I think it's a struggle for me too. When you do feel that feeling of like, oh, I need to rest, but then the feeling of guilt comes up. What are ways that you manage that? How do you actually take care of yourself?
How I take care of myself is
Nick, you're frozen.
Oh yeah, we did hear you for a moment, although your camera's frozen.
I try to lean things to stuff or lean to things that I completely enjoy. Can you all hear me? I'm so sorry.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, you're back now.
Hold on. I'm so sorry. Okay. Okay. So what I've learned to do. Oh, it says my. Can you all still hear me?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. So what I have learned to do is to do things that I love. I try to find things that I love and try to stay committed to doing it and not let anything shake me away from it. And it's just basic things. Like I know too, I love going to the movies, but I don't like paying all that money for going to the movies. So I know Tuesdays, it's my $5 Tuesdays where I don't let anyone interrupt me. But every Tuesday I go to this to go treat myself to dinner and a movie by myself. I don't want anyone added to me. I go by myself, and that is something that I enjoy doing every Tuesday. And I don't let anything stop me or make me feel guilty for not going.
That's wonderful.
Yes, I love that. I love that. I'll add some of mine. I've loved nature as long as I can remember, but something changed with my relationship with nature in 2020 when we were forced to be inside for so much. It was the only place I'd go outside of my house for most of that year. And I have a dog that loves to hike. So my dog and I would just hit these trails that is Atlanta is full of trail. I know we probably have callers from all over the South, maybe all over the country. But the three of us are based in Atlanta and we live they call it the city in the forest for a reason. We have so many trails, so many parks. And it was like the one place in 2020 where you could just be in your full body and breathe. And now it is a ritual. I'm out there probably 2 or 3 times a week and just a nice slow walk, nothing too, I'm not climbing the top of Stone Mountain, but I am getting some steps in and I'm seeing nature, I'm seeing deer, the creeks, just the water. There's just so many aspects. I'm learning plants, I'm learning about the mushrooms, like every level of the forest, you can learn from the floor to the trees to what's above. You're moving your body. So that's my medicine. It's free, if you can get to the trail. So that's my medicine.
As you were saying that, I was thinking about the guy who was attacked by the Karen in Central Park.
Oh.
And it turns out
yes,
that he's a
Karen.
Black bird watcher.
That's right. Yes.
And that there are, and I know there are more than just Black folks here, but there are birding groups, cycling groups. If you're an extreme extrovert like me, and Nick, I love you, but I ain't going to dinner and a movie by myself. I gotta have somebody with me for one part.
One or the other.
One or the other. And Nick, I'm curious about something. Are you in a relationship?
No, I'm not in a relationship.
Well, that's not the right answer. You are in a relationship with Nick.
Correct.
Oh.
And so you and Nick go out on Tuesdays and y'all have a good time. And I'm saying it like that because when whoever you are interested in comes into the story, you've already put in place that I take care of myself. So you don't have to do that. So what else you got to offer?
Ooh. Oh, look at his face. You read him. The library is open.
The library been open. But no, I completely agree with that. And I really do. And I think the more time that I do things like that with myself, the more harder it gets for me to date, because you do have to come with something other than those things that you can really get my attention.
Yes. And in fairness to those of us who are in relationships, and especially long-time relationships, we have to intentionally remember to date our love.
Yes.
And I know of a man who does spiritual leadership. And if you're in a relationship and you don't have a date night, he won't admit you into the program. Because he's like, how are you going to take care of a community of people if you're not taking care of the person who's right there with you?
I know that's
Wow,
right.
wow, yeah. Don't be like MLK.
And I'm gonna be honest
those
that,
leaders that have
and it's nothing that complicated, because my husband is the polar opposite from me. He's
facts.
very much an introvert and an
A
intellectual.
brain.
Oh my God.
He's a scientist.
He is a neuroepidemiologist, if you can imagine all that in one word. And he's retired now, so he's really getting into the nerd thing. But we have to give our relationship time, even though we've had all this time together. Because, and that's part of the balance. And if you have somebody who's not giving you time, they don't want to be in a relationship with you.
Ooh, God, you gave me goosebumps.
Baby,
I
say
can't.
that.
I can't.
But then, Duncan, I have a question for you.
Yes.
How do you, I mean, being adults, it's so much. You have so many different responsibilities.
Yes.
How do you begin to balance the responsibility that you owe yourself to rest? How do you give this, balance that responsibility that you have for your partner? How do you balance all these different responsibilities that you have for people?
Nick, I'm gonna be real honest and very upfront with y'all. I don't have all this down perfectly. I don't even have it down, like, some days reasonably. And so I can hear my husband saying, show him your office, which I'm not gonna do. And you said, how do you do it? You have to listen to the people who love you. And you also have to embrace this horrible word. It is such a horrible word. And I hate it. And it's the N word, no. Oh, did you see Holiday have to?
I had to sit back.
I'm like, I like
Holiday,
saying no.
are we gonna have to call 911?
I stopped breathing for a moment. We got to stop saying no. I like no.
No is hard for me.
Everybody saw it, Holiday.
Maybe not. How about maybe not?
No is hard for me to say.
It is not no to everything.
Terrell basic, bro.
But we really can't do it all.
That's true.
We cannot do it all. And it is so hard for me, y'all, because I adore the attention. I live on the love and the care. And I missed 2 therapy appointments. They were on the calendar, but I was going so steadily, so hard. I wasn't looking.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And there really are only 24 hours in it.
That's right. Unless we do some things.
And
Friends, I
the
just
other
want to
one-
draw our attention to our time,
Okay.
so we give our audience
Sure.
a little. And also, if you
Can I
notice
just
that
throw
last
one
little
thing out?
Sure.
Okay, and I promise I'll shut up. This lie that we have been given in school that you can give 120%. Where is the 20% coming from? You are 100% whole. So where is the 20% coming? You're either borrowing or stealing or something, but you can't do 120%. And we've made that a goal.
Look what I just wrote in the chat. I don't know if this is a real term. Compulsive Black perfectionism
Oh, Lord.
equals you have to work twice as hard as everybody else.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Eek.
Yeah.
Why? Because I'm half a human? Like what? Yeah.
Yeah.
How about you give it your best 100% for you?
Yes.
For you. And if that doesn't get you through, it's probably time to do something else.
Yeah.
And you know, that advice was wonderful for a lot of people, but you know, and you can't make up for all the Black people who are given 70%.
Look at his face. Don't say anything else, Shaniqua. Listen, I want to offer our audience some time to ask questions, but I wanted to turn over to the question part from something you said, Duncan. Oh, right. Something I wrote in the chat. I was making a list of the things y'all said you do to take care of yourself and find that balance. The last one I slipped in there, which is the arts, going to the arts, participating in the arts. And the confession I want to share with the audience is Nick is an incredible singer and Duncan is an incredible writer and poet separate. And so if we have time, if either of them want to share with us, I want to just offer that as well. Until then, I'm putting them on the spot with that. We're gonna open up the floor if any of the audience wants to come off mute and ask a question or share anything, anything that resonated with you tonight, feel free. Now is the time. Just look. And if not, we're gonna keep running our mouths for the next 8 minutes. Okay. It's a small thing, but I'm working on being mindful of my body. Word. I had a coworker work themselves into the hospital and was still sending us work emails from their phone on the stretcher. Lord, I decided I never wanted to be that person. I know that's right. And I'm trying to learn to recognize that stress in my body and remind myself no job is worth that and step away as much as I can. Let me see, Arlen. Applause, applause, applause. Great, thank you for sharing that with us. I'm gonna kick it over to Nick or Reverend Duncan Teague to see if they want to respond to that or if that resonates or anything.
I could respond to that because I guess I've been there before. Just a small story. I'll give it to you all. I want to say 6 years ago, I was so geared of trying to buy a house that I started working crazy overtime. And I was working from 6:30 a.m. to 10:30 p.m. every day for about 3 to 6 months. And then it got to a point where I was tired and I was trying to also fulfill obligations with my friends and my family as well. I had a friend who lost his mom. I had to work overtime that day. I worked overtime from 6:30 a.m. to about 10 p.m. that night. And then the next morning, not feeling well, not sure what was going on, but I wasn't feeling well. But I went to the funeral to be there for him and his mom, which was in South Carolina. Drove back from South Carolina, still not feeling well, but something told me to go to the hospital. When I went to the hospital, they did an x-ray on my chest and I had a tear in my aortic dissect and they had to do heart surgery on me. I'm 30, I was 30, maybe like, I think 34 or 33 at the time, and I had to have that heart surgery. And I promised myself at that point that I would never work like that again. And I think from that situation alone, it scared me, but you have to listen to your body. My body was telling me that I wasn't feeling well, but I was still pushing it to do what I needed to do. And if I would have kept pushing it, I would not be here to have this conversation with you all to this very day. Yeah. So really listening to your body is the major thing. When you start to get frustrated at work, you're not able to think clearly or think rational and stuff at work. Your body is trying to tell you that you need to take a break. And you have to listen to those signs that your body is giving to. And yeah, that was my story
Thank you. Thank you.
about how
I'll
working.
throw a 1 cent into to this pot and kick it to you, Duncan. In terms of a skill of listening to your body, this is part of the work that I do day in and day out is embodiment work. And so it's like what your body's going to say a lot of different things. And so to just tease out more of what Nick was saying, when you feel your heart racing, when you feel like, oh, I haven't been breathing, I've been like holding my breath. When you feel your shoulders up, those are the signs. And there's so many ways that if you can make it to a massage therapist, if you can make it to an acupuncturist, that's great. But there's so many things you can do right there from your desk. First off, look away from the desk for a moment, look away from the screen. Take these deep breaths, just like we did in the beginning of the session. There's an app called the mindfulness app that plays a little chime every hour, not on the hour though, so you don't know when it's going to happen. It goes, boo, that reminds you to take a breath, look away from the screen. There's a lot of different techniques. There's different, ergonomic seat things. All of these things really do help the body come back into its full form. The stressors and the tension and trauma have us go back like this, back to our original like this, basically. So, which is why we have all this pain here. Okay, I'm going off on my soapbox. Let me get off this soapbox and just say anything to come like this and to come down like this. Do that when you feel your body, when you're listening to your body. I just want to give some tips. All right, Duncan, kicking it to you.
Thank you so much for owning that you are, who was it? What's the name?
It was Arlen.
Arlen, thank you. Our body is our physical container. And some of us have been talked out of our bodies by our religious upbringing. Like we're more concerned with our soul or maybe our philosophy, our heads, but we haven't been given an affirmation about our body unless we're a super athlete or something. And then it gets out of balance the other way.
That's right.
And that's for somebody else's pleasure, by the way. But anyway, thank you for owning that you're intentionally going there. And I just want us to imagine how much work we will get done after our funerals. Because they will have somebody sitting in your chair before your funeral.
Oh.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
They'll call a temp in to sit in your seat. And they won't, in some companies, they won't even take off to go to your funeral and say what a nice person you were and that you killed yourself working for our company. Somebody in your family might get a $25 floral arrangement and that's it. So the value, you have to value you first. And I'm going to say this, and it's going to sound very classist, but I find the work that also will affirm you.
Yeah.
Whatever level it's on. And the other thing, especially for poor people and people of color, when the body says, I am hurting, it is a message for help. Nick was working too hard to hear the early signs. He only heard the fire bell. Because I assure you, I am so glad you're here. Because I want to hear what your music's like. And I don't want to hear it played over a speaker while we talk about what a nice guy you were.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
our forebears had to work themselves to death. We don't. Most of us don't. And when the sign happens, that's when it is time to go and do something. Or if, okay, I'm gonna get a little metaphysical, or sometimes you don't even get a pain.
What?
Sometimes you don't even get a pain.
Oh.
You just get the notion that, oh, you know, I haven't been to so-and-so in a while. There's a reason that thought came to mind. Because y'all, at the time that I got my diagnosis for prostate cancer, there were no symptoms. My doctor looked at the charts and said, Duncan, I don't like these. And I said, that's all that I need. He said, do you want to wait and see? And y'all, if we had waited and seen, y'all would be having somebody else, not as good looking, but somebody else here doing this.
Right.
And the prognosis from everybody before I did the biopsy was, well, Duncan, it looks like this is all going to happen and it'll be all right. After the biopsy, we found out that I had a little bit of very fast growing cancer. Not a lot, but a little bit. And that's all it takes. And then after my surgery, I still had some. So something was going on somewhere that they didn't even know about.
See.
We don't have to wait until we got the mortician in one hand and a florist in the other to go to the doctor.
That's right. That's right. Diligent about our health. Friends, we have come to the middle of the hour, which is the end of our time tonight. It's just a short and sweet little something.
You gotta come up with a better way of saying that, because you had me all of a sudden feeling all right. Oh, we in the middle.
Hey, we start at 6:30.
See, you do that to your lovers, don't you?
I don't. I don't. No.
We in the middle. No, we at the end.
Good follow through, debrief, feedback, the whole thing. Annual report, the whole nine. Y'all, I want to thank you so much for joining us. Nick, it's a pleasure to have you join. This is pretty much your first day. Welcome aboard.
First day.
Duncan, Reverend Duncan Teague, you are just truly a delight. And I'm gonna pass the mic to y'all to say your goodbyes to wrap up.
Okay. Thank you everybody for coming. This has been great. I've learned a whole lot from Reverend Duncan Teague. I appreciate you. And I'm just thankful to be a part.
I am so grateful for this holiday. You know, mostly when you call, I'll come. I'm still waiting on my tickets to come in person where you are, but that's another workshop. I want y'all to hold me and my congregation in the light, because the reason we're named Abundant Love is for this reason, so that we have a healthy place to be together. It's real easy if you're curious about us. It's you know, the W's, and then ALUUV, because love has got 2 U's in it since we're Unitarian Universalists. ALUUV.org. It's that simple. And if you want to send me a note that says, Duncan, clean that office up, or go for that other 30 minutes on your walk, don't cheat. I love you for it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. This session has been recorded. It will be released on Campaign for Southern Equality's website in a couple of days. Thank y'all for coming, and join us next month, October 19th, I believe, we'll be talking about this topic that kind of came up tonight about grief. It'll be before Halloween and Day of the Dead, and it will be the time when the veil will be thin, y'all. So our connections to our ancestors in the spiritual world will be even thicker. So we'll be talking about that. We'll be talking about embracing grief and things like that. So join us again, and love you, and we'll see y'all later.